Well, good morning. Welcome to Debbie's Back Porch. So glad to have you with us today. It's just been way too long since we had a little visit. You know, sometimes life presents us with little challenges, but we're not going to spend even a second whining about them. I have several videos planned for the next few weeks that I hope you find helpful, but right now I'd really appreciate it if you gave this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. I'd really appreciate it. So the question of the day today is what to do when you have too many tomatoes. Now, we all know you can't have too many tomatoes, but you can have too many to deal with all at once. And besides giving them away, one thing you can do is freeze them and can them later, when you're not so busy pulling weeds and picking beans and such. So I'm going to show you how I do that and then how I use them later. So we're going to start by inspecting the tomatoes and go through them. This is one of several buckets, and these are some pretty good tomatoes. These are super sauce, but they're not all perfect, and we want to take out any that we wouldn't can. And like this one, you see, we've got a bad spot on this one, and we're not going to bother to freeze it because one bad tomato can ruin a whole batch. So I'm going to sort these out, and I'll be right back. So the next step is to wash them, and watching someone wash a whole bunch of tomatoes can be pretty boring, so I'm going to take this time to share some information. According to the National Center for Home Food Preservation, you can't safely can previously frozen vegetables, but you can previously frozen tomatoes in some well-cooked recipes. So what does well-cooked mean? You can can them as crushed tomatoes, you can sauce them, you can make stewed tomatoes, you can make ketchup, you can make tomato soup. Unfortunately, you cannot make salsa with previously frozen tomatoes. Safely tested salsa recipes require you start with fresh tomatoes. I'm going to finish washing these and I'll be right back. So depending on how you plan to use these tomatoes later, you may want to weigh them as you put them in the bags. You can either use freezer bags or you can use freezer safe bowls, whatever works for you. Bags can get expensive and wasteful, but I generally wash them out and put the next batch in to reuse. If you plan to use them in a recipe that requires a specific weight of tomatoes, like ketchup or tomato soup, just weigh the bag, put in an even amount, something you can keep track of, and write with a Sharpie on the side of the bag the weight of the tomatoes in the bag. I just use these for crushed tomatoes, so I don't bother to weigh them. Now, before I start coring them, I dry them off because you just want to cut down on the ice crystals in the bag. So before we put them in the bags, we're going to cut the core out, and I'm going to cut off any discolorations on the sides that they would probably come off when you peel them, but I'm going to cut them off anyway. And let me be clear, I'm not talking about bug bites or bruises. I'm just talking about the little pieces of the stem that don't come right off. So this one's all clean. You can either put it in whole, depending on the size, or you can cut it in half. Because I'm putting these in a bowl, I'm cutting them in half so that they will fit better. So I'll finish coring and be right back. So this bucket of tomatoes is ready for the freezer. I'm going to suggest you use them within a year for best quality. Now I'm going to show you what to do with them when you take them out. So these are tomatoes that I froze last November. I just took them out of the freezer, and I'm going to thaw them in the refrigerator, not on the counter. And it's important that you thaw them in the bags because you want to retain all the liquid. Otherwise, you risk changing the pH. So here they are, thawed out. I put the bags down in a bowl, and there's some ice water in the bottom, but that's not tomato juice. So I'm going to pour out that ice water, and then we're going to peel these. Take note of the liquid at the bottom of this bowl. You'll see that's tomato juice, and when we cook these, it's all going to cook back together. Now, the thing about peeling previously frozen tomatoes is that the skin just slips right off. It's very, very easy. So I'm just going to peel these. I'll do just a couple to show you how easy it is. And then I'm going to put them in the pot and put them on the stove and get them ready for canning. Now, if you're peeling fresh tomatoes for crushed tomatoes, you add them just a few at a time to the hot pan. To minimize the separation when you can them, you don't have to really do that with previously frozen tomatoes. You can just heat them up because the texture has changed and you're going to have less separation. Here you go. They're all peeled. I'm going to put them on the stove, heat them up, and get them ready for canning. And here you go. This is about 5 quarts of tomatoes ready to can. And that's going to be the next video, because I have to tell you, folks, I have a surprise. I have the new Presto Precise 17-quart digital canner, and I'm going to use it to can these tomatoes. And here's a preview of the finished product. I want to thank you so much for joining us on Debbie's Back Porch. Hope to see you here again tomorrow.